Okay, opening things up here in the 1540 turn. This is the actual one. At some point or another, I uploaded 1535 as 1540. Monarch Survival. Venice has a new one that I didn't fill. That's supposed to be a 9 in there, I believe. Very good leader, but for one thing, diplomacy. Everything else, pretty questionable, actually. And Portugal got a new baby leader. Significant drop down, actually an infant, essentially a child. Anyway, in both cases, kind of bad news, but we'll see. Base economic events, exceptional year for Spain. Crisis of madness for the Turks. Agricultural techniques for the French. English got an excellent minister, bumping them to the top of the list, 7, 8, 9. The Turks are dropped down due to the madness. Portuguese got a plots at home, which will give them a +2 penalty to survival for their young monarch, so there's a good chance they might see him replaced or something. Anyway, there we have it. On to the political events. For the political events, we got some biggies coming here. First of all, Turkey lost their opportunity. The political destabilization happened that comes with Hungary's succession issue, which is Hungary's now entirely Habsburg, Bohemia's entirely Habsburg. Apparently there's no Transylvania. I don't have the rules for this. I remember EU8 had some rules, but I think Transylvania secedes during this, regardless of whether or not Austria takes place. But I don't know where they got them from, and I don't have them. Obviously, the Risto events speak towards Transylvania, though, and I don't have any counters or anything for that, or any clue where they came from. Milan has been annexed. The Sforza have died off by Spain. The Spanish king inherits this. It's going to remain a Spanish territory, not a Habsburg one, for the rest of the game, but France has a special opportunity here. They have a casus belli against Spain due to this, and they don't have to take it this turn. They can take it next turn instead. And then Milan becomes kind of special, which is that either side can immediately conquer it and add it to their territory. Just a special case for this particular war if it erupts. And I think it will, but not this turn. France kind of wants another turn to build up their position, I think. I'll have to put some thought in that because they have the edge on the Spaniards right now, but Spain's beginning to develop itself, the New World colonies, to an extent that France may want to get the strike in early, even though they're not fully ready for it. On the other hand, they're going to be facing the Habsburgs. It's just an ugly situation. We may see a Spanish-Turkish alliance or something like that to try to handle this, or a French-Turkish alliance to try to handle this. And if they can agree to that, then, and it may not be a formal alliance, then they may both wait a turn to when they're more capable of handling the Habsburgs, because the Habsburgs are a minor country. Nobody has an edge on them. The fact that your stability is low makes it very difficult to knock them out of a war. Okay, and then there was also the from the diplomatic crisis that caused the Habsburg inheritance. A bit of shifting happened, so you see, not the Habsburgs there, but Milan is now gone as a country. Obviously, Hungary's gone as a country, but a number of things kind of fell back. So, like Venice lost some position there. They lost Parma. A little bit of shakeup. The final one is Algeria has been added to vassal status for the Turks, and that's going to mean, well, this is an automatic event as well, based on Barbarossa. He's willing to submit to them in a way that Algeria wouldn't otherwise. And they're in a permanent status as long as he's alive. He also becomes an admiral for the Turks. It's sort of like a corporate merger or something, I think. Okay, on to the bookkeeping stuff. and we'll get started and see what happens. But we got the diplomacy first, so I may come back if something exciting happens up there. I keep forgetting about that phase. I play it, but when I'm speaking, I just completely ignore it. Well, I've gotten up through the income phase, and I'm never quite sure how to handle this, but this game I've been kind of handling the monopolies for the exotic resources. A little different from some. As long as Ormuz is producing these products of the Orient and spices, nobody can get a monopoly in those. And even though Portugal is exporting one of them, they've got to get up to a level 6 and pull them all out of there in order to clear them both. If, of course, they get to level 3, they could take all of one or the other. That's going to be a hard choice, because if they have 5 levels of any one, then they get a monopoly, and that's worth some victory points. Whereas, well, or no, actually they get a 5 or 6. I don't remember if it's 5 or 6 that gives you the total monopoly. I think it's 5. So if they got the 3 levels of spice from there, they would have the total monopoly, which is worth 3 victory points, as opposed to the partial monopoly that they would get off the 3 products of the Orient, which is worth only 1 victory point. But the price differential is there. I think they'd probably go for the extra victory points because, $4, $6, whatever difference is certainly a pretty good deal for even 1 victory point. It costs $10 minimum to set up a new trading post, and you have a limit to how many you can get. So chances are they will continue exploiting the resource that gives them the most points, victory points. In terms of diplomacy, not a lot happened here. I rolled Venice regained Parma on their track. Somebody else made a roll too. I don't think it worked. No, they're the only one who decided to spend for it. The English were interested but decided against. But one major diplomatic activity, Venice and Spain signed a mutual offensive treaty, which means if either side declares war, the other one's bound to come in. Now, obviously, this is targeted against Turkey, and certainly from the Venetian side, but also from the Spanish side, with the idea of they would have gone with a defensive, but the Habsburgs, if they're the ones who are attacked by Turkey, can call Spain in, but they can't call Venice in that case. And you can't make an alliance with the Habsburgs, between the Habsburgs and someone else as Spain. So this is an appealing prospect from Spain's point of view, but Venice said, look, I'm covering you as an offensive war in that way. I'd gladly make the mutual defensive pact if you'd rather, but you might also end up calling me in against France, and I just want to let you know I might start a war with Turkey. And the Habsburgs are like, hey, that's great, we're vaguely considering that ourselves. So we might be seeing a tendency towards war going here. This is an open treaty, however. Venice insisted upon that. They want to prevent a Turkish war against the Mamluks if they can. And likewise, the Spaniards want to prevent a war against the Habsburgs until it's of their choosing, or at least Venice's choosing. France is somewhat warned away by this. Now, they have their reason for going to war at Milan that we discussed, but it's, kind of a little more scary when you're looking at another major power jumping in, and one that's built up its military about to the maximum. Granted, the Venetian army isn't very potent, but they've got 2 full fleets, 2 full armies. They've got a lot of power and a lot of money that they don't know what to do with. They could end up sending some money Spain's way to help them out, whatever. Economically, most of the countries except England are doing quite well this turn. I'm not sure why the English fell back. They must have had a bonus last turn. Probably look that up real quick. Yeah, they had an exceptional year last turn, so they fell behind. They're not going to get a +1 this turn. No big deal. they had nothing that was going to hurt their stability. Everyone else is in the prosperity zone, which means everyone's going to move forward. That was one of the reasons that France and Portugal, well, France and, Venice, kind of wanted to hold off, and maybe Turkey wanted to hold off. Everybody's kind of thinking, maybe we've got the advantage prosperity-wise, and we'll get to jump further ahead. Maybe we've got the ability to do a stability improvement that the other side won't. Those kind of thoughts come into mind and kind of suppress a war. And suppressing war is an important thing because, well, it speeds the game up. And it really does. All right. So I'll do the economic placement and see what happens. I'm not expecting much in terms of a military around here because there's no wars.